Insights. I'm co-founder. We're all students, and we're all at UCLA. Essentially, what Sike does is that we're a SaaS tool startup that creates remote tools for remote teams. Our first product is a Slack bot that analyzes public Slack messages and delivers work style insights using AI. Yeah.
Beautiful. And what was the kind of inspiration, mentioning that you're all students, diving into the remote workspace? Obviously, a very hot space right now with the COVID-19 pandemic. What brought you to that space, and how is the COVID situation affecting you?
Yeah, so I'll start with the first part. We're all students. We oftentimes internships, I remember my first internship was actually an e-learning company with a Chinese tutoring company, essentially. I saw remote work and I immediately thought, hey, I don't have to commute anywhere from campus. It's a great opportunity. The only problem was that they didn't have any remote structure in place. It was a lot of emailing back and forth, using Zoom, kind of figuring out that on its own. And it was truly very, very isolating. I couldn't really imagine how people did that full time, especially if you were an IC and you just receive these assignments and you just never really get any instruction from there. And so I met Sid, I met Andrew, and essentially we decided it was like a shared experience, essentially, the isolation, the lack of communication. And so we started pursuing, there has to be a better way. There has to be a way to understand work style insights. And so that's where we came up with Sike Insights.
Beautiful. And I think you hit on a really important point there about kind of the isolation piece, which is one of the topics that often comes up with remote work. A lot of these companies focus on how can we communicate more effectively. And you're doing that, but in a different way, with bringing in kind of the humanistic side of everything. What inspired that, and how does Sike Insights really help to align work styles to create that productivity?
Yeah, great question. So essentially what happened was that we are students, we're 20 years old. Actually, I'm the oldest one, the other guys are 19. We don't have a lot of experience with remote work, so we look to the experts. People on LinkedIn have been really, really kind. I basically message out and ask them, can you talk to us? We've talked to so far 150 to, actually it might be up to 170 remote managers at this point, including Darren. Hi Darren, I see you're watching. And so these amazing remote experts have given us amazing insights on how to not only best practices for leading remote teams, but also challenges that they've faced with isolation, with communication. And so we found out that even though communication is the biggest issue, trying to find these platforms and stuff and trying to work them is the biggest hurdle. But then from there, the next step is truly how do you create an empathetic workplace, where everybody feels included, where people feel like they're understood, and where you can really adapt to people's work styles. Usually that fell on the manager, trying to understand and really have those touch points, constantly DMing, trying to check in and such. But other managers, it's a lot of work. They have all these meetings that they're context switching through. And so essentially, we decided to create employee readmes for remote teams that are a lot easier to use. They're automatically generated using AI. You can edit them whenever you need to. And it just makes it a lot easier for coworkers to read about who their remote workers are, really feel part of a team, and get rid of that isolation aspect.
Yeah, I love that. And I think the empathetic part right now is super important. So how has the COVID-19 situation affected you in the company? I know you kind of hit on it yesterday when we talked that things are ramping up
Definitely.
quick.
Well, as you can tell, Remote Aid was on Monday. There's been conferences every single week. The world is in remote work, whether it's ready or not. And we used to say that remote work was the future. Well, it's happening right now. What we have found is that we pivoted to remote work back in October 2019. We released our private closed beta in January. And we literally we've been overwhelmed with pilot feedback, essentially. In the last 2 months, we've secured 20 pilots and 4 paying customers. We're still very, very early stage, but it's just, we've gotten so much positive response, so much I need this product right now kind of attitude, and it's definitely accelerated our pace. Also, for a little bit of context, I was a student. I graduated last month, really. And so I'm full-time on Sike. It's not exactly what I immediately planned because of the whole COVID-19 aspect and everything, but being full-time has allowed me to really accelerate at a time where remote work is accelerating too. And it's just been a really, really exciting time.
Yes, absolutely. We did have a question come through the Q&A here that I want to hit on. How can you ensure that you never recommend bad behavior? It says on your landing page, it recommends someone to take the comments on face value, and this can hurt progress in the company. So how are you making you continue to ensure that workflow and that
I
productivity?
think that's a really, really good question. We've been working a lot with UCLA Anderson workplace psychologists and also the big 5-factor model. So our AI insights are powered by IBM Watson. What happens is that it analyzes the personality footprint that occurs inside public Slack messages. And what it takes from there are the insights. So let's just say like 95 percentile gregariousness. For regular people like you and I, we have no idea what that means. But when it comes to if we can actually translate those to actionable insights, so we talk to psychologists, translate that into layman's terms and realize like, hey, this person is a little bit more bold when talking and stuff like that. They would like you to be a little bit more assertive and straight to the point when you're like talking about this thing. Or maybe, Ethan, maybe you like to be approached a little bit more gently and stuff like that. So don't be so aggressive on Zoom calls. When it comes to like ensuring that we never recommend bad behavior, all these insights are merely recommendations. And so for our READMEs, the AI serves as the foundational piece. And then from there, you edit and change your insights as you need to. It takes a lot of time to write these READMEs. We're actually inspired by GitLab's README handbook and such like that. And so we realized that this is great information that everybody in the company should know, but how do you make it more efficient? And how do you make it so coworkers can actually use this in their day-to-day work?
Yeah, I think that's awesome to include the human side of everything. So what are the next steps for Sike Insights, next in development, both short-term and long-term? What's on the table for you guys?
Super exciting. So far, what Kona is, it's pretty basic. It is a it automatically helps you get to know who's inside your company. The very next step is to open up these READMEs to public facing. GitLab already does this, where they have these public facing like README profiles because they pride transparency. A lot of other companies do as well. And so we believe that making our READMEs transparent can help other external relationships that like employees have. So salespeople, if you're working with a client and such, and you want to immediately talk with your client and be like, this is how you can best communicate with me on this new project that we're working on together. You would be able to just share your README link and be able to see like, hey, this is the next step. For managers, we've been including a lot of features. So we already created a Google Calendar integration that allows you to bump and say like, hey, these are your insights before your next 101. We also have new features that we're building right now called Pulse that does emotional kind of check-ins and such to be like, how are you feeling this week? Especially, it's inspired off of COVID-19 essentially. It was originally further down on the product pipeline, but we decided that since it's such a chaotic time and it takes so much work on the manager's part to juggle all these like different ICs that they're trying to like keep track of and make sure that they're being cared for, that this Pulse feature would really, really help them understand like, how is my team really doing? And maybe like so they can actually be there for their employees. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we are starting to run a little short on time here. But do you have any kind of final thoughts, exciting things that you want to share about
Yeah,
Sike?
definitely. I will say, like, I think I'll finish with our thesis. In that remote work 1.0, the communication tools like Slack and Zoom, Remo, and like Hopin, all these different conference tools have really made a foundational piece for remote communication. But if we are going to do remote work at scale, and if we are going to be exercising empathy deliberately at scale, we need something that has an empathy piece to it, that teaches you how to create these remote working relationships online. And so that's what we're trying to accomplish at Sike Insights.
Beautiful. I love that. I love what you guys are doing. I can't wait to see what's next. Is there a plan I know you're working with Slack. Is there a plan to integrate into other platforms as well?
So Kona right now is platform agnostic. We're planning on integrating with 15.5, with hopefully Microsoft Teams, Zoom, maybe in the future. And so we're just looking at all the integrations that we can possibly have, Jira as well, and just see how we can really make it so you can understand your coworkers, give them effective feedback, communicate effectively, understand the work styles through your entire workflow while working remotely.
Awesome. And if people want to reach out and connect to Beta, Sike, or get connected with you, how can they take those next steps?
I'll pop in the website right into the chat right here. I can also like add my email and just fire me an email. Everything's welcome.
Perfect. And then it looks like some more questions are actually coming across you, so okay. That's awesome. In a large corporation with bigger teams, would it be useful to incorporate Kona on team basis and not company-wide? And is that in the pipeline?
We actually already have that as a feature. It's a really, really great question. So we're currently piloting with companies like Auth0, Buffer, like pretty huge companies. And so what's happening is that we have them install into a specific channel. Typically, we found that teams have their own channels. And so you install into the channel, you have maybe a team of like 3 or 4 that you test on and stuff. And if you would like to expand to like general, then you would have the entire company. It's really based off of like who you want using Kona. The people in the channel will be able to see each other's insights, but everybody like outside of the channel will not be. Yeah.
Perfect. I think one more just came across here as well.
Thank you guys so much for the awesome questions, by the way.
Yes, the questions have been fantastic. And then I guess kind of the last one here. With the COVID situation, I think a lot of companies are embracing remote work and some not so much. But how do you see the future of remote work heading once this all kind of subsides?
I think right now, remote work has accelerated. People have gotten not only a taste, but they've literally lived remote work in a way that they've never done before. I think one of the other speakers mentioned that the world will never be the same. I truly think it won't be. I do think that people will acknowledge and realize that an online presence is something that you can have in tandem with these events and such. So I do think that it's going to be different and hopefully in a really positive way where we can be more inclusive, we can include more people, have like larger hiring pools and have talent from around the world. So I do think that remote work is transformative and it's only going up from here.
Perfect. I love that last answer. Alex hopped on here. So I think that means it's time for us to head, but thank you very much, Corine. It's been a pleasure.
Sorry to interrupt because I know I